Hey guys, welcome back to News Dump.
Well, looks like we're going to be talking about our favorite music streaming service, Tidal, for the second time this week, because hot off the heels of the release of Tidal co-founder Jay-Z's latest, highly acclaimed album, 444, Kanye West, previously a true believer and disciple of the streaming service, has now ended his partnership with Tidal.
Gasp! Now, on the one hand, this is sort of surprising, given that Kanye had been all about Tidal during the release of his most recent album, The Life of Pablo, about a year and a half ago, even initially saying that the album would be a Tidal exclusive forever, though about 6 weeks later became available, everywhere.
6 weeks is forever in Kanye West world.
That is true. I remember when 6 weeks, when I was in elementary school, 6 weeks was forever.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's no correlation there. It's just time feels different to people.
6 weeks till Christmas might as well mean no Christmas at all.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, though, Kanye breaking up with Tidal isn't really shocking at all, for multiple reasons. First off, Kanye West and Jay-Z, who were at one time good friends, who even released the damn good collaboration album Watch the Throne together. Apparently they haven't been on very good terms as of late, with Kanye lashing out at Jay-Z last year during his complete mental breakdown phase, calling Jay out for not reaching out in support when Kanye's wife Kim was robbed at gunpoint in a pretty horrifying home invasion.
Yeah, then there's the lyrics on Jay-Z's latest album, which clearly reference Kanye. You dropped out of school, you lost your principles, I know people backstab you, I felt bad too, but this fuck everybody attitude ain't natural, but you ain't a saint, this ain't kumbaya, but you hurt because you did kumbaya. You gave him 20 million without blinking, he gave you 20 minutes on stage, fuck was he thinking? Fuck wrong with everybody is what you saying, but if everybody's crazy, you're the one that's insane. Did I do it properly with the correct,
I'm sure your cadence was spot on.
Yeah.
They'll be making beats out of that for years.
Good.
On top of all that, though, it sounds like the big deal breaker was the fact that Tidal allegedly owes Kanye $3 million, a bonus that he was supposed to have received for bringing 1.5 million new subscribers to Tidal with The Life of Pablo. Kanye is also said to be pretty upset about not being reimbursed for his Tidal-exclusive music videos, which Tidal say they haven't paid for because they haven't all been delivered yet. Seems like the question of whether payment would be upfront or upon delivery is something that should be clearly spelled out in whatever contract the two parties signed, but
I mean, we all witnessed them sign the contract in that video, right?
Yeah, this is a contract, right?
Sure. There's no lawsuit yet, but this marks yet another bump in the road for Tidal now that one of their biggest artists and supporters has decided to jump ship. Especially because apparently Kanye is still technically under contract with Tidal, and if he chooses to release any new music through other streaming services, he'll be in breach of contract and likely sued, which will likely result in a countersuit about money owed to Kanye. Jay-Z versus Kanye West in a drawn-out lawsuit would basically be this generation's Tupac and Biggie, albeit with a lot less murder, but, basically the same.
Yeah, it would still be, people would have to choose sides.
It would be all eyes on them.
Mm-hmm. But whoever wins the lawsuit gets to keep the throne.
Okay.
We can finally decide.
Great.
Anyway, enough about Tidal. Let's get into the movie news because Baby Driver came out last week. It's a fantastic movie,
Yes.
and now it's looking like Edgar Wright might do something that he's never done before. Make a sequel. That's a word that naturally triggers our deep-seated cynicism about the film industry taking beautiful original ideas and then ruining them by beating a dead horse, but on the other hand, Edgar Wright is one of the few filmmakers that we actually have absolute faith in, so let's just hear him out.
Okay. On the Empire podcast this week, Edgar Wright gave a spoiler-filled interview about Baby Driver in which he said, "The studio have asked me to think about writing a sequel, and it is one of the ones that I might do a sequel to because I think there's somewhere more to go with it in terms of the characters. Baby has got to a new place. Most sequels you have to contrive something so they go back to square one unless there's somewhere deeper for them to go. I think with Baby Driver, there's more that you can do in that realm, and I sort of have an idea that if you did another film, you would subvert his involvement in the crime in a different way so he's not the apprentice anymore."
So that's all incredibly vague, but hey, if Edgar Wright thinks he can tell another story in this world that can live up to the very high standards set by the first one, why not? Okay.
I don't know, he couldn't do Shauner of the Deader or Cold Fuzz. I mean, the Cornetto trilogy, technically a trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be fine with another.
I
don't know why he has to not do more Cornetto movies.
Yeah,
But
the
I
world's
guess
endier.
He hit sci-fi, horror, and action. Not really a lot of genres left.
Yeah.
But anyway, not to spoil anything, but Baby Driver, I think, wrapped its story up pretty nicely and really didn't seem to be begging for a sequel at all. I mean, it might make sense to pick up the story in like 5 to 10 years after some time has passed for these characters, but in the meantime, We would much rather see Edgar Wright put out another original idea first.
Baby Driver has an actual baby that becomes a driver like Boss Baby.
Oh, and the baby
it's
can
an
talk.
animated, yeah. it's like Baby's Day Out, except Baby Driver 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look who's driving.
Look. Perfect. Perfect. As long as we can get John Travolta to sign up.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Wow. Anyway, speaking of ideas that are kind of hard to wrap our heads around, but hey, might be cool anyway. Sylvester Stallone has been seemingly teasing some sort of return for Ivan Drago in a sequel to Creed, which is essentially Rocky: The Next Generation. On his Instagram this week, Stallone posted this picture with the caption, "Directing Apollo and Drago, the two best cinema boxers that ever lived. Maybe it's time to try again." As well as this photo, or rather Photoshop, with the caption, "Here's a chance to stretch your imagination. History will always repeat itself in one form or another. Just gotta be ready. Sins of the Father. Hashtag Creed 2. Hashtag Agent Nikki C. Hashtag Rocky Balboa."
I'm surprised you didn't do your Stallone impression there, but it's fine.
At this point, it's becoming sad because I'm not sure if it's like just his age wearing him down fully, or if it's
He's put his body through
a lot.
a lot.
It's doing the impression now kind of seems mean because it could be that he's not even like hamming it up anymore. Like it was weird in his heyday, but now it's very like a lot of drawl. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so the Agent Nikki C in that hashtag seems to refer to talent agent Nick Cordasco, who's a friend and business partner of Stallone's. But we have no idea why he's hashtagged there. Anyway, Dolph Lundgren is 59 years old. It wouldn't really make any damn sense for him to square up against Michael B. Jordan, a guy half his age.
Do it anyway.
But I don't know, maybe they'll bring him back as a trainer or something, or as the guy who helps the Russian boxers pass their doping tests.
My piss is clear now.
Or, I don't know, maybe Creed will fight Drago's son at the Olympics or some shit. I don't know. Ivan Drago literally killed Adonis Creed's dad in the ring in Rocky IV. Kind of a key moment in the series. So, Drago's mere presence in Creed 2 would bring a lot of dramatic tension to the movie, which is scheduled to come out sometime in 2018. So, who knows?
Yeah, now, in other news, it's another week, and Neil Blomkamp has released more short films from his Oates Studios project. Though, unlike Rocka and Firebase, these ones aren't a half hour long. They're like meal videos. Eat a meal and watch. Or maybe not.
Yeah.
The first is called God, Serengeti, and it stars friend of the show, Sharlto Copley, as God, who couldn't be less interested in what's going on with the prehistoric humans, treating them as a momentary amusement as he instructs his butler to blow out the fire they've created because they're 200,000 years ahead of schedule, and spray them with some mist because God forgot to turn off the drought. It's a clever concept and would actually work great as a recurring web series, which seems to be the case given the God, Serengeti title. Could be more God things on the way.
Yeah, I like this. And Sharlto as God.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It elevates the 5D chess aspect of playing games.
Yeah.
So there you go.
The other Oates Studios videos that were released are part of another web series called Cooking with Bill, which is a weird public access style cooking show apparently set in the late 80s or early 90s.
and Eric.
I mean, kind of. It features outlandish kitchen appliances that are meant to solve problems but come with their own bizarre, horrifying side effects. This definitely feels similar to something that you'd see on Adult Swim at 3 a.m. when you're not sure that what you're seeing is real, or maybe you're just experiencing psychosis due to sleep deprivation.
Nah, I only watch Barbecue Pitmasters in the middle of the night. Only show that,
Smart.
yeah.
Can't have bad dreams from that.
No, only succulent, delicious dreams. And moving on to trailers, one of our favorite shows from last year was HBO's Vice Principals. It was from the people who made Eastbound and Down, and it starred Danny McBride and Walton Goggins in the role of a lifetime.
Yeah, the best thing he's ever done.
As two terrible high school assistant principals vying for the head principal job, and through any means necessary, and we mean that. Now, there's finally a teaser for Season 2, which will conclude the story that left off on quite a cliffhanger at the end of Season 1. And this teaser is very bizarre, even by the show's standards, seeming to show some sort of Native American vision quest Danny McBride's character is experiencing. Also has a tiger roaming the school's halls. Sure, Vice Principals returns on September 17th, and I couldn't be more excited.
It is such a good show.
Yes, it is. Walton Goggins, performance of a lifetime.
Yeah. The man, they should have cast him as the new Joker.
That's what we
Ledger.
said it a bunch, but they should fucking just retcon, what's his name, 30 Seconds to Mars guy right now,
Yeah.
it's Jared Leto, and just bring him in. Or, you know what? They still haven't redone the Riddler. And I think that Walton Goggins would be an amazing Riddler.
Yeah, a Southern Riddler. Don't make him change the accent.
No, keep it. Write it in.
And literally just play the character from Vice Principals, but smarter.
Yeah, leaving stupid jokes around. Anyways, he's fucking like I need to rewatch it again just for his performance.
Yeah.
I also I rewatched Hateful Eight recently.
Yeah, he's fantastic in
after
that.
watching Vice Principals, and I was just like, this dude is such a good fucking actor.
Yeah.
So you'll enjoy it.
Speaking of HBO, tomorrow night they're premiering the Defiant Ones, which we've somehow forgotten to mention on the show before. It's a 4-part documentary about Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre, who are the guys most recently known for building the Beats brand and then selling it to Apple for $1 billion. But of course, long before that, Dre was a highly ambitious rapper and producer, and Jimmy Iovine was a producer and engineer for artists like U2, John Lennon, and Bruce Springsteen, and also the founder of Interscope Records. So the Defiant Ones basically chronicles both their lives from their totally different backgrounds, and then their unlikely friendship and partnership, and all the work they've done with various artists along the way, featuring interviews with people like Eminem, Bruce Springsteen, Snoop Dogg, and Bono. Probably a lot more. So that looks pretty interesting. It's out tomorrow night on HBO.
A little behind the curtain look at some of the music industry stuff. It's always fun.
Yeah, I'm rich as fuck.
Yeah, but speaking of music documentaries, here's one that's at the complete opposite of the spectrum. What Would Diplo Do? Starring James Vanderbeek as Diplo. Yes, you heard that correct. And it is directed by friend of the show, Brandon Dermer, and written by Jordan Bandina, the guy who writes ridiculous movie scripts on weekendscripts.com, such as Fast 9, The Fast and the Furor. Oh, and friend of the show, Dylan Francis, he's also in it as well. It looks like basically Spinal Tap. It's Spinal Tap's pop star style music mockumentary about the ridiculous, excessive lives of famous EDM producers, and it premieres on Viceland on August 3rd. I'm trying to get Brandon and James Vanderbeek in here to do the podcast,
That
so
would be great.
Hopefully that happens. I heard James is a very lovely man in real life, so
I believe it.
yeah.
Now back to real documentaries. Netflix has released a trailer for Icarus, their very intense-looking documentary that revolves around the whole Russian sports doping scandal from the last couple Olympics, which apparently goes all the way to the top level of Russian government, and they do not like people shedding a light on the subject. People have died in mysterious ways.
The Russian government is like a B squad version of Scientology. They're almost as bad.
Not bad, yeah. That is that's not a bad comparison.
They're the JV Scientology team.
Yeah. But yeah, the whole scandal, it also, of course, casts a huge shadow over the entire global sporting world because shady doctors continue finding newer, harder to detect ways to give their athletes an edge over the competition. So this looks really interesting. Comes out on August 4th on Netflix, and it looks intense and infuriating.
Yeah. And one final trailer, yet another trailer that should get you very excited for Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk, featuring one of the characters reading Winston Churchill's famous "We Will Never Surrender" speech. One of us has seen it, but isn't allowed to comment on it presently. But speaking of Churchill, what was that thing he did when the Allies declared victory in Europe? Oh, cool. Anyways, look for our interviews with Chris Nolan and some of the cast next week on our channel.
Yeah, and speaking of interviews, I got to talk to Matthew Modine, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Stanley Kubrick's longtime personal assistant, Leon Vitali, about the 30th anniversary of Full Metal Jacket, which is, of course, Kubrick's classic 1987 Vietnam War film. So here's that conversation. Check it out.
Quickly, move it out, Pyle, move it out! You climb obstacles like old people fuck, you know that, Private Pyle? Get up here, you're too slow, move it! Private Pyle, whatever you do, don't fall down, that would break my fucking heart!
Elliot, isn't it interesting that after all this time, the film could have come out this weekend? We could be doing a junket for the movie.
That is what's interesting. I watched it again last night for the first time in a couple years, and I mean, like most of Kubrick's, or all of Kubrick's works that I've seen, it is just as relevant now, today, as it was then. And thinking about that, I'm curious, not being old enough to have lived in a pre-Full Metal Jacket world, what was the sort of effect on the public, the turning point with this movie? The before and after.
To be honest, I mean, it was his most successful film.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His most successful
Meaning
film.
in what kind of success?
Box office.
Financial.
Yeah.
It's one of Warner Brothers, I think, top 5 grossing
Yeah.
films of
Yeah.
Wow,
all
I had no
time.
idea.
And
That's very cool.
and where, you know, as in a lot of his other films, you know, because they're so detailed, you don't actually see a lot or tie a lot together the one time you see it. If you see it again, you're kind of quite surprised. And because there are all these little discoveries to make every time you do see it.
It's funny, there's Stanley told a joke, the the Queen says, "What's on at the opera tonight?" And they say, "Aida." And she says, "Oh, I've seen it." It's a joke, because of course you can see Aida again and again and again and again. It's an amazing play. And he said that that's how films should be. They should be something that you can take out and see again. And just like in Aida, that you didn't notice some particular part of an aria or some piece of orchestration. And you go, oh my God, because as we get older and we expand our lives, hopefully, and have a greater understanding about life, that we hear different things. But he said that film should be that way. It should be something that you can pull out and look at over and over and over again and discover different things at different points in your life. So there was a filmmaker who was trying to achieve something that great artists like those Wagner and, Puccini had tried to accomplish.
And yeah, with the detail and the amount of work that goes into these films, I'm really curious about, as actors, the first act of this movie, you're filming at a former RAF base with a actual former Vietnam-era drill sergeant. You're running all these drills. You're working for a director who intentionally shoots lots and lots of takes to sort of break down the line between reality and acting.
That's an assumption.
It is?
Yeah.
So what were the takes like on the boot camp of this?
That's an assumption. That's something that you've read and you assume
I have read it, yes.
that he does multiple takes to break people down. You got 3 people here right now who've been there and will completely argue with you that it was not some kind of attrition that he was trying to accomplish. He was trying to capture something great, and then sometimes it takes a few takes in order to be able to do that.
Every scene that he approached, it had different problems which every scene does when you make a film, whoever's making a film. And so Stanley would have to work through those issues until he got them right. And very few times, I know in our experience, my experience with Matthew in the boot camp stuff, very few times was it anybody's performance that was the issue. It was the shot itself, and I averaged, I think the most takes I did was 9 takes, and that's normal, for a genius filmmaker, that's normal. For some schmo, it's a lot less. I think it's basically he did it until he thought it was right, and that was it. That's basically it.
There was only one scene that I was involved with Arliss Howard, who played Cowboy. It was multiple takes, and it was in the bathroom.
The mopping scene.
Yeah, I want to slip my tube steak into your sister. What are you taking trade? We did that many times.
That was a timing thing. It was trying to get that kind of natural,
banter
going on, without it being sounding scripted.
Arliss and I didn't know why we were doing it over and over again, but our flip-flops would stick to the floor sometimes. Then we'd start laughing because it was so ridiculous. But that was the only thing I can think of in the film that was many, many takes.
Okay, so obviously the public perception of Kubrick is not exactly in line with the reality of people who knew him. Is there anything else, specific experience that you think would explain what it's like to work for a guy like that in a way that's completely contradictory to his mythology?
I wish more directors could have spent time on his set to see how he worked, because what he did was create an environment for creativity.
Right.
That most directors today, in most films that people work on today, you're shooting a film schedule instead of creating a film. You just say, this is what we have to do today, and if you don't get to that, if you don't complete those things, you get in trouble. You're in trouble because you're going to have to pick those shots up or cut them. So he created an environment so that he could explore things and not complete the day's work and carry on the next day until you got those things right, by creating a financial environment to be able to do something like that.
Right.
And you also have to remember that he did a lot on set. He wasn't just standing there sitting in his chair behind a monitor telling people what to do. I mean, he would have everybody there on set. He'd have his lighting guy, the operator,
and a small crew.
It was a very small crew.
Yeah.
But he would do it all if he could. He would even operate. I remember when I did Full Metal Jacket, he was getting older, and so if it was a really tough thing where he'd have to get down on his knees and get back up, then he would hand it over to Doug or somebody. But other than that, he did them all. And I thought because it was my first film, that was every director did. And even today, I just read an article the other day how directors are starting to get back to that now, where Anderson, like P.T. Anderson, is now operating and even DPing his own films. His last one with Daniel Day-Lewis. But Stanley did that.
Yeah. You see the film quite differently looking through an eyepiece than you do watching on a monitor. And if I don't like directors, if they're operating, fantastic, because they can see the film. But watching from the monitor, I think is detrimental to the filmmaker. The old school directors that I started working with, they stood by the camera and they watched the scene. And they were almost participating in the scene. They were one of the actors in the scene. Sometimes, like you see footage of Fellini directing a scene, and it's like he's like a conductor in an orchestra. You know, and you can feel them. You can feel them.
Yeah,
I mean, David
was the same.
Yeah,
Exactly
David
the same.
Lean wouldn't just watch his actors do a scene. He would watch them through the lens, and if they were too slow at getting him a lens, he would go like that and watch the scene. He'd find their composition, and he would watch them act in the scene with his fingers up like this, and then he knew if the scene was working or not. Yeah.
You're not even human fucking beings. You are nothing but unorganized, grabastic pieces of amphibian shit. Because I am hard, you will not like me. But the more you hate me, the more you will learn. I am hard, but I am fair. There is no racial bigotry here. I do not look down on niggers, kites, wops, or greasers. Here you are all equally worthless. And my orders are to weed out all non-hackers who do not pack the gear to serve in my beloved corps. Do you maggots understand that? Sir, yes, sir. Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sir, yes, sir.
All right, that's all we got for you this week. Be sure to check out the new episode of Weekly Weird News and a brand new episode of Tugs. Go to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/etc_show, because we're uploading there as well, and we did some great streams this week.
We're going to Twitch.
And on Monday, stay tuned for our coverage of Fate of the Furious down in Cuba.
Oh, yeah.
That's finally coming out on Monday, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.